All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the final edition of Streets for All Happy Hour for 2022. We're so excited to have Hugo Soto-Martinez, newest council member for District 13 with us as our special guest. Before we get to Hugo, we're going to give you a quick update on Venice Boulevard, final election recap, talk about our mobility report card, talk to you about some stuff we're trying to stop with street widening in Los Angeles, give you an update on neighborhood council elections, go over a few wins and fails, and we'll get to our conversation with Hugo. Our icebreaker is, what transportation project would you be most excited about in CD13? So I'm going to turn it over to Katrina to answer that question and give us an update on Venice Boulevard for All. Katrina.
Thanks, Michael. I have to say the project I'm most excited about in CD13 is one where Streets for All was approached by a stakeholder about a potential pedestrian plaza on the border of CD13 and CD4 along Hollywood Boulevard, where it meets Sunset, in that sort of Los Feliz and East Hollywood area. There's a lot of cute shops, a lot of great opportunity for pedestrian activation, and previously some pretty dreadful car crashes there. And so there's ongoing chats between the neighborhood councils there and the business community and advocates, and we're hopeful that we can get something good off the ground in the new year. I'm here to talk about Venice Boulevard, though. Venice Boulevard for All is finally coming to fruition. We've got some hot off the press photos from the construction that Streets LA is doing, and we really want to thank them for getting this going. Just to quickly recap where we're at. The Palm section from the 405 more or less out to National Boulevard is currently under construction. I want to thank all of our advocates for all the engagement that they've done with LADOT and with the neighborhood council in order to make sure that we could get our protected bike lanes and dedicated bus lanes through the section of Venice Boulevard. So construction's going on right now. Just a reminder that the western portion has been delayed, and they're going to be doing more outreach for the section between Lincoln Boulevard and honestly out to the ocean as well, I believe, to Beethoven Street in the new year. So stay tuned for more opportunities to engage on Venice Boulevard on that section of the west side. And also stay tuned for opportunities to celebrate the opening of the Palm side. We'd love to do a community bike ride or something like that with all of you to celebrate what a huge opportunity this is going to be for safety and livability and comfort for cyclists and bus riders and pedestrians. Now I'll turn it over to Olga.
Thank you, Katrina. I'm going to talk a little bit about the election. For those who weren't following, I'm about to show you a beautiful graphic of how many wins we had, including today's guest, Hugo. We won more than 60% of our races, which is amazing. And now we have solid progressive majorities on WeHo, Monterey Park, and even a super majority in Burbank, which is good news for the BRT. For those who follow Streets for All lore and attended our happy hour with Constantine, we're very excited. Other than the big election, we are going to be issuing recommendations for CD6 coming up. We're going to have all the candidates fill out our questionnaire, and we're going to be hosting a mobility forum. You'll hear more about it. For now, though, we're also going to be issuing recommendations for ADEMs. A number of us are running, and we'll be letting you know which slates have the Streets for All folks on them. We're also going to be issuing recommendations for neighborhood councils, which Adrian is going to talk about in a little bit. But that's it for me. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Michael.
Thanks, Olga. My dream project for CD13 would probably be Santa Monica Boulevard. I had the good fortune or not good fortune of biking back from downtown recently and took Sunset to where Santa Monica started. And after Virgil, it gets really hairy. The street is inconsistent. It has parking. It doesn't have parking. There's a center turn lane. There isn't. And I think adding bike lanes there, along with what West Hollywood is considering doing, could mean eventually safe biking from downtown LA to the beach, which would be awesome. So street widening, this is a quirky law, little known law. I'll call it the silliest law of the land. And what it does is it results in streets like you see, where the curb goes in and out, kind of like that. LA has this essentially zombie law on the books And it basically, when you knock down an old building and put a new building in its place, the city requires you to narrow the sidewalk, sometimes cut down trees, and widen the street. So it basically allows for cars that speed faster on wider streets. It's cutting down trees, which help fight climate change. And it makes the street more dangerous for everybody because cars are sort of zigging in and out of this configuration. The reason it exists is, I guess the thinking is long term, we'll eventually widen every street in LA, but that's really unrealistic in any of our lifetimes or even our grandkids' lifetimes, and it needs to stop. So there was a motion introduced by Nithya, Mike Bonin, and Bob Blumenfield. Right now, we're waiting for it to go to Plum and Public Works. This will likely be taken up next year. We'll keep you posted, but we're excited to get rid of this law. And lastly, it makes housing more expensive because the developer is the one that has to pay to widen the street and do all of that work. I'm going to turn it over to Adrian to talk about neighborhood councils.
Thanks, Michael. The Dream CD13 project that I would like to see come to fruition is completely redo the Hyperion Bridge, including better pedestrian facilities and bike lanes. Little side story, I've known Hugo since I think 2019 when we were both on the CD13 Neighborhood Council Alliance, and our meetings were in Atwater Village. And I would always come to the meetings really cranky because I felt like I was gonna die, and I'm probably gonna die biking home. Luckily I didn't. So here I am today talking about neighborhood council elections. They're really important because they're the closest form of government to the people. There are 99 of them citywide, and they get a budget of $32,000 a year. They get to opine on things like bus lanes and bike lanes, and they tend to be more conservative leaning. So we need more progressives on the neighborhood councils. Candidate filing has already started in certain regions, and we have some helpful tips and a guide if you are interested in running. So if you have any interest, visit streetsforall.org/neighborhood-councils. You can visit for more info, apply for an endorsement, and best of luck running for your neighborhood council. And I'm going to throw it over to Bubba to give an update on the state team's efforts.
Awesome. Thank you, Adrian. Yeah, so the CD13, I guess, Dream Project, I think it would be the Heart of Hollywood project, only because I'm not like a big Walk of Fame fanboy, but we met with Mitch O'Farrell's office because they were soliciting feedback on their design. It didn't have a bus lane, didn't have a bike lane, and we told them, hey, this isn't good. This is, cars can still get through, but how come we're not prioritizing transit and working towards the future? And they basically brushed us off and said, well, this is what the community wants, and we've already met with everybody about it. So we're really just looking for you to say you like it. And we left kind of dejected. This is one of the first, this is like the first year of Streets for All. So now we have Hugo here, who's a much bigger ally on these issues. So we're really excited to unveil the Streets for All mobility report card, which we unveiled last Wednesday. It's the first of its kind grade of every single California legislator, senator, and assembly member. And it's based on 29 bills that Streets for All endorsed in the 2021-2022 legislative session. And we used a methodology where if you voted for one of these 29 bills, if you voted aye, you get points. If you authored one of them or co-authored them, you get points. And you lose points if you vote against them or if you don't vote at all or have an unexcused absence. So we're really excited to unveil the results live for the first time here, although it's been released for a bit. But here are the 6 top senators and assembly members, so 3 and 3, with the highest grades. Senator Anthony Portantino was the highest scoring state senator, followed by Scott Wiener and Josh Newman. And then Assembly Member Laura Friedman, who's the chair of the Transportation Committee in the Assembly, was our top Assembly member, followed by Phil Ting and Richard Bloom. These 6 are the mobility champions of 2021 and 2022. Congrats to them and all their staff. And then our extraordinary legislators, these are the folks who voted perfectly aligned with all of our mobility bills in our endorsed slate, and also authored some of those bills. So you can see them here. These are assembly members and senators with a score above 100%. So congrats to these legislators. And if you go to the next slide, here are the perfect legislators. And you can see all of this, by the way, we'll put the link in the chat. Here are the legislators that voted perfectly for those bills as well. We have 9 of those. So yeah, that you can see all of this at streetsforall.org/report-card. And finally, here are the legislators. We want to make sure that we're recognizing folks who are changing and growing and moving, even if they don't have the highest score yet. So these are the 6, the 3 assembly members and 3 senators who showed the greatest improvement from year to year, from 2021 to 2022, including Anthony Portantino, who authored 4 of our bills because he became an avid cyclist during the pandemic, and we struck up a great relationship with him. And you can find this graphic in the report too. You're probably not going to be able to read it on this slide, but it's just a very pretty table in bike form with the assembly in the front and the Senate on the back, showing you where every single assembly member and senator ranks for mobility over the past 2 years. And what this allows us to do is hold our legislators' feet to the fire, keep tabs on them and their voting record, and give kudos when appropriate, and also apply pressure when they're failing to live up to their responsibility to improve mobility for everybody. So it's a huge next step for our state team, and we're very excited about it. All right. For our wins and fails of the month, the first very big win is that we have a brand new steering committee member. Please welcome Alex Contreras. They're an amazing advocate, and we're just really excited to have them on board. So I'll turn it over to Alex for a quick intro.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Contreras. I originally am from Downey, California. I've been working with Streets for All on our Destruction for Nada campaign to end freeway expansions in originally LA County. Hopefully, we'd love to turn it into a statewide campaign. But yeah, really happy to be on board and excited to be here with everyone. And I'm going to pass it off next back to Bubba and Josh.
Thanks, Alex. Welcome. My dream for CD13 would be bus lanes on Vermont, Santa Monica, and Western, which I guess is a couple projects, but there's some of the highest ridership lines in the entire county, and they get stuck in traffic a lot. One of our wins of the month is that Metro has changed its planned fares. Originally, they proposed something that would increase the cost of riding the bus or train to $2 from $1.75. And they would also get rid of 2-hour transfers, which is something that saves people a lot of money. They had some cool stuff in here, like fare capping, which we were supportive of, but we came back and we got a bunch of people to rally and yell at Metro that this is bad, it's going to hurt people, it's going to make taking the train and the bus more expensive, and they listened. So we got rid of the bad stuff, but the good stuff is still in there. So pretty much everyone's ride is getting cheaper, which is very exciting.
That's me. Okay, one quick update on Fountain. We did it. We really rallied. And in West Hollywood, the city council actually voted 5-0. We thought we'd get 4-1 at the most, but we even got the most conservative member to vote with the majority. And Fountain is going to be implementing protected bike lanes from La Cienega to La Brea, where it turns into CD13. And this is just such an exciting project. So it's going to make the street a lot safer. For our last one of the month, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle.
Thanks, Michael. And so I think my dream CD13 project.
Kyle, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. There's a audio issue.
Am I good now? Okay. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I think my dream icebreaker project would be, well, 2 things, because one of them I hadn't heard so far. The first is echoing Bubba and pedestrianizing Hollywood Boulevard. Of course, Times Square is beautiful, like somebody mentioned, and it has a dedicated micro-mobility lane, which is wonderful. And so I think that same concept would also apply here, where we have so much foot traffic, and it would just make it a more livable area. And then the second idea is the 101 freeway cap, which would be really cool to have that be a park space all through up and down the 101, just like right on top of it. Something that a number of people have proposed recently, even outside of here. And so I'm happy to talk about this little win that we're hoping becomes a big win. The city is studying the removal of the policy of peak hour travel lanes all throughout the city. You see them everywhere. There are lanes that are parking, and then in rush hour they become, car traffic lanes, which is a completely car-centered proposition, which is finally being challenged. And so we're happy to see LADOT voluntarily taking progressive steps like this and evaluating decades-old bad policy, infrastructure policy, as a result of meetings like this and your support in this movement. So thanks to everybody who responded to our call to action last week. We were really happy to see the motion pass unanimously with those present on council, and we'll keep you posted on how this progresses and let you know where else you can plug in. Now kicking it to Michael, who's going to make some last few announcements before we get into our special guest.
Thank you, Kyle. As usual, we're at Streets for All on all the major channels. If you want to volunteer, get involved, streetsforall.org/get-involved. I think everybody knows about our merch store at this point. Every purchase is a donation to help our cause. And in January, next month, just to give you a sneak preview, we're going to have Councilmember Nithya Raman on January 11th at 5 p.m. We're really excited about this because this is 2 years after our first conversation with Nithya, right after she was elected. So excited to catch up with her. Councilmember Soto-Martinez, welcome. So Hugo Soto-Martinez was born and raised in South Central LA. He's the son of street vendors from Mexico. He has spent the last 16 years at Unite Here, organizing with mostly immigrant women in the hotel industry to win healthcare, higher wages, and respect on the job. Locally, he's helped lead the effort to bring labor into the struggle against police violence in response to the LASD murder of Andres Guardado. Nationally, he's helped oust infamously crooked Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Didn't know that. That's awesome. Win the Senate for the Democrats in Georgia and empower thousands of working class monolingual Spanish speakers across the country by bringing them into the political process. Hugo, welcome. Thank you so much for your time and for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here. This is my first sort of public event after the election, so I'm glad to be here.
We're happy to have you here. First, I just want to say how excited we are, not just to have you here, but to have you as a council member in CD13. We, Streets for All and sort of the advocacy community have had so many projects we care deeply about, just railroaded and canceled by Mitch O'Farrell. So off the top, I wanted to make space, if you wanted, and ask you if you have any ideas or projects in mind that you'd like to share with everybody. And if not, that's fine. We can go on to the next question.
No, that's fine. Well, we just filed a motion on Tuesday. This is sort of our opening salvo for the city, right? As I know how folks are familiar with the process, but essentially we have to direct the many city departments to basically do work, right? And so we did 3 or 4 major priorities. I would say those are things that we're really talking about how we can have an immediate effect. Many of the projects are already done or in process. We want to get an idea of that. Oftentimes when these are in process, the council member has been sort of a barrier or stopping many of them. And so we just want to know what's there, because that's the thing that's going to give us the immediate impact. But obviously there are much larger plans that I am very passionate about sort of supporting. Now, as an organizer, I think a lot about capacity building and the identification of training and development of leaders. I know there's a lot of committed folks here that are Streets for All, but it always sort of is the same sort of cadre of folks doing the work. And I'm very mindful of that, because in order to build, have much broader vision for the city, whatever issue that may be, you have to think about that. And so any projects that are out there that have those elements, I will literally throw my entire support behind. And the one that I can think about at the top of my head is Sunset for All. I've met with those organizers. They have literally done the work for the council member. They've done the outreach. they even did the study. I mean, they even did LADOT's work, right? So all that just seems very, very has all those elements that I like, and so I think that's the one that is gonna get a lot of support in my first 4 years, certainly.
Thank you. Over to you, Katrina.
Thanks, Michael. So I'm here to ask about the Heart of Hollywood project. And this is one of the few transportation projects from the last administration that we did like, but we did not like that the Heart of Hollywood initiative maintained private car access to Hollywood Boulevard. The way it was designed left one lane in each direction for private cars, but that would create a situation where the bus would be gridlocked with cars, and it would jeopardize the entire project with people complaining about being stuck in traffic. And as you know, Hollywood in that area is closed half the year anyways, with movie premieres and awards ceremonies. What is your position on the project, and would you be willing to limit private cars and make sure that the project focuses on buses, emergency vehicles, and local deliveries only?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's been several plans that have been put out about how that looks like. I really like the idea of making it 100% pedestrian. Perhaps that can be either in some sections of it, specifically between Highland and La Brea. I think that's very right for just a 100% pedestrian section. But I do like the idea of extending that just to buses and deliveries. Maybe as far as maybe from the walk, where the Walk of Fame starts. I think that's Gower. And so yeah, I support that. I've recently heard some rumblings from just a few days into the job about some complications that the business community is talking about regarding deliveries. So again, these are just rumblings, but it seems to me like it's completely feasible to try to do that. And so yeah, I think that's a great idea. And and very similar to the description of Sunset for All, right? We're gonna have to do some outreach, make sure that people are whatever fears or misconceptions they might have regarding that plan are assuaged, or we can dispel that. I do think there's a way to do many of the things as you described, right? It's closed off many times during the year. So I think definitely there's a opportunity to do it right.
Thanks. Over to Alex for the next question.
I was going to say, I cannot see the questions. I'm having technical difficulties on my end.
Alex, if you want, I can grab that one and I'll just DM you what mine is.
Okay,
Or we can switch them.
Why don't you do your question, Olga, and then
Perfect.
we'll send Alex theirs.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask about the Vermont bus lane. As you know, Vermont has a bus lane on the mobility plan. It's one of the highest ridership streets in the entire city, especially for a number of really working class communities. It's one of the lines that services USC. There have been talks about maybe doing light rail, but Metro is leaning towards starting with a dedicated BRT line there and maybe eventually upgrading it to light rail. So we're curious to get your thoughts on what you think would make the most sense for Vermont, what you think is feasible, and what you personally support the most.
Yeah, I have not completely dug into this sort of Vermont discussion. So I would, if you have information, please send it my way. I'd love to see it. But obviously, I think that our platform and what I believe in is we certainly have to create as many options as we can for people to get away from their cars, right? For many different reasons. And so any places where we can do dedicated bus lanes or protected bike lanes or create some alternative that is not about people using their cars, I would completely support.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Alex, do you have yours up now?
Yeah, I have my question.
Awesome.
Thanks you guys. Hugo, so question for you. For Sunset for All, Sunset Boulevard has protected bike lanes on the mobility plan and currently has narrow door zone unprotected lanes. Sunset for All is a concept that would, the thing shifted. Sunset for All is a concept that would not only implement the mobility plan's protected bike lanes, but also do so in a way that would maintain all of the travel lanes and most parking. Mitchell Farrell led from behind, letting advocates do all the work, including raising money for a feasibility study that the city would normally pay for. What's your position on Sunset for All, and would you work to make the project a real thing, as in, not what is currently planned, and help find money for implementation?
Yes, absolutely. I would support it. I think that in this case, the organizers of that plan have done all the work. I mean, I met with Avi and Terrence many months ago, and they were the experts on this. They talked about how certain parts unlock certain kind of money in a certain state, and through some of the networking I've done through this group, I'm learning more about how state grants come through, and I learned that the more ambitious the plan, the better. And so, again, not a transportation expert, but when those concepts come together and there's money there and there's knowledge and there's will, I think we would support it 100%.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for the next question.
I think it's me. So this one's about Fountain. Fountain's a neighborhood street masquerading as a cut-through street at rush hour in City 13. Currently has pretty useless sharrows and is really not that safe to bike on, even though it's a designated bike route in the city. It's also the only east-west reasonable bike street in that part of town. The city of West Hollywood, as we just covered, recently voted to remove some parking and implement protected bike lanes, as well as widen the sidewalk to make it ADA compliant on their section of Fountain from La Cienega to La Brea. So we're wondering, would you be willing to potentially continue this treatment into the CD13 section of Fountain, which actually it's the entire stretch from the West Hollywood border to Sunset. And that would mean people on bikes could have a safe, continuous bike facility from La Cienega all the way to Sunset Boulevard, which, if Sunset for All was done, would then connect people all the way safely to downtown LA. So curious to get your thoughts on Fountain.
Yeah, I think that anything that has a sort of an element of connectability is always very attractive to try to do. That happens a lot with different cities, right? When you go into West Hollywood, all of a sudden things very much change, and district by district. And so, yeah, I think that however, though, I would wonder like how that fits with a much larger plan. Sunset for All is a good example. And so I think building off of that really important vein would be good. Fountain's very close. And so I would probably start more on this side of the district as opposed to the West Hollywood side, just because it's more in the district. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. Over to you, Cal.
Thanks, Michael. So I want to ask about Santa Monica Boulevard. So Santa Monica Boulevard, it's a key street for bus and bike lanes already. On the mobility plan, it has a bus and bike lane all the way from Sunset to La Brea. Much of the street in CD13 has no street parking on one or both sides, depending on the lane configuration, if there's a center turn lane. But West Hollywood is currently studying bringing Santa Monica Boulevard, their bike lanes all the way to the C13 border at La Brea, as well as protecting it. If that happened, we'd have a bike lane from the 405 all the way to La Brea, and with the Ohio connection going in on the west side, we'd have a continuous path all the way from the ocean to La Brea. So would you be willing to support adding bike lanes on Santa Monica Boulevard from La Brea to Virgil, which would then connect with existing bike lanes from Virgil to Sunset and Sunset for All? If that happened, we'd have a way to get all the way from downtown to the beach.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea to me. I mean, I think that all could work. But I want to go back to sort of something I said in the beginning. It's like, we have to think about how we engage people, how we identify leaders, and how we train them through this. So I think it's really important not to lose sight of that. I think folks are doing a great job here, but I want to be in a position where we can do 2 or 3 or 4 campaigns in the city of Los Angeles. But yes, I agree. It has all the elements that I like: connectability, connecting different neighborhoods. It's a high transit corridor for a lot of essential workers. Personally, I know a ton of folks that work in Beverly Hills. Those Beverly Hills hotels are union hotels, they stand outside on Santa Monica and Vermont, Santa Monica and Western. I can't tell you how many times I've been around there and they're waiting for the bus, right? It takes forever for them to get to work. You know, just to get from where I live to the west side, it's about an hour and a half, you know, and that's the Santa Monica bus, because I know workers that live in East Hollywood. So anything that has all those elements, I think are great.
Actually, fun fact, one of the most common bike routes in the city is from Boyle Heights to Beverly Hills.
Yeah,
Probably
that's
for the reason you
correct.
just said.
I'm not surprised.
Over to you, Josh.
Great, thanks. Hollywood Central Park is an ambitious project to cap the 101, where it's below ground in Hollywood, turning the freeway into a tunnel and turning the cap into a park. Hollywood was decimated in the 1950s and 1960s with the construction of the 101. And with the federal infrastructure bill's Reconnecting Communities pot of money, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fund something like this. It would dramatically reduce pollution to the working class communities that live around the 101 and create one of the largest parks in the city. Curious to get your thoughts on the project and how you feel about it.
I like it. I don't know much about it. I've only heard a couple of people speak about it. I've seen the website. I think it's a beautiful plan. I like the idea. I do have concerns about you know, the gentrification that's happening already in East Hollywood, in that area. I would feel a lot more comfortable if those communities were the ones leading the project. And so, you know, there's been a lot of different ideas like thrown in CD13, and I always think about, well, how are we creating this in a way that has equity and that's equitable? So I think those communities need to take a big lead in that. But I think the idea is phenomenal. You know, the renderings are beautiful. We don't have anything like that. It's good. It's good for, you know, it's sort of they carve this freeway into the hill, right? It's causing pollution and noise and a lot of different issues. But I like it, but I do have some concerns about who's leading it.
Thanks, Hugo. I think we're gonna go to some audience questions. By the way, we're not used to a council member saying yes this much, so we're trying to get our wits about us.
Yeah, we can fight about other things, but not transportation.
By the way,
Well-
everything you say here, you've made a blood oath, just so you know.
No pressure. All right, so first question from Russell Bates. As CD13 is adjacent to CD1, are there opportunities for you and Unisys to collaborate on active mobility infrastructure that runs between the two districts, such as a protected bike lane running from Fletcher Drive in CD13 to Avenue 36 to Eagle Rock to Verdugo in CD1?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. You know, Unisys and I are very good friends. We met organizing against the sheriff, which was mentioned by Michael in the opening. So we're good friends. I think a lot of our values align. But I can go farther than that. I think there's also an opportunity with Councilmember Rahman and with Councilmember Katie Yaroslavsky. And so I think for the first time, right, 3 of those seats flipped, I think, to very pro-transit folks. So I do think that we can have a lot of connectivity among those 3 districts. I mean, literally, these were folks who were killing or stopping many of the transit projects in the district. It's like a complete 180 in those 3. So yes, those drool emojis are very accurate. So yeah, I think we can go further than just one district. I think all those districts can line up together.
Next question from Joe Bruckner. He says, I'd love to talk about unlocking the municipal stairs. For example, the Fargo and Westerly stairs. I don't know what he's.
That's me. I just wanted to give a little bit more context.
Sure.
So there are a bunch of fantastic staircases all through CD13 that are used for, you know, a lot of people, and you'll sometimes see them be, you know, hosting events and art and fantastic stuff, but they're real public good. And since, you know, kind of crime scare fervor nonsense in the 80s, a few of them have been locked seemingly permanently without review. So there are staircases, 2 I'd like to draw your attention to, like on the Fargo stairs and the Westerly stairs, and they are just blocked off. The Fargo one in particular is the only way to properly transit over that hill near Silver Lake. If you don't use those stairs, you're using sloped streets that are really not sensible to walk through. And I noticed, there's been repaving of the streets there, but there's not been pressure to unlock those stairs. There's also ones on Westerly, which is near Silver Lake Boulevard, and helps people access Silver Lake Boulevard from the residential area surrounding that. And I just wanted to let the council member know that this is a truly easy win in terms of transit. This is a real opportunity to open up walking paths for locals and people who want to transit through these areas just walking. I know we've got more of a bike focus, but I'm a bit of a walker as well. And I'd love to see some movement on those. I'm just curious if you've had a chance to hear about that or have any opinions about the idea of opening them up.
Yeah, I have not heard about this issue, so thank you so much for bringing it to my attention. I think the stairs are a beautiful. I door knocked every door in Silver Lake, and there was a lot of stairs. I didn't see any of them unlocked, but maybe I was on the other side of the reservoir. Yeah, they're great. So I again, thank you so much for bringing it. Is there any way you can get me the exact location of the stairs? You said Westerly and Fargo.
Oh, I cannot tell you how I would be delighted to direct you exactly to these stairs. No, I'm happy to. I'll send it to Olga, and she'll send it through to you.
That would be. But yeah, the exact location. I'll take a look at them.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Next question from Glenn Bailey. The former CD13 Councilmember O'Farrell did not appoint anyone to the city's bicycle advisory committee or to the pedestrian advisory committee to represent CD13 for years, despite multiple requests. I did not know that, and I think that says a lot. Will you be able to do so promptly?
I mean, city moves very slow, but we'll do it as soon as we can. I mean, if folks know, names of people that should sit on there, please send them my way, and we will appoint the right people. They have to have an organizing background, be good, sort of connected to different groups. If they're connected to Streets for All, even better. Have a good trusted voice in that seat would be great. Person would be connected to the office as much as we can.
What is the best email address for your office?
I sent an email to Olga on a direct message here. That would be the best place.
Okay, great. All right, next question from Eric Brightwell. For someone who's volunteered on a neighborhood council and wants to take the next step in local government, but is happy with their city council person, what do you recommend?
Sorry, what's the second half of that?
They want to take the next step in local government, but they're happy with their city council member. What do you recommend?
Oh,
wait till they're turned out.
When they want to run for city council, is that the sort of
what it sounds like?
Wow. Well, we should talk. I've heard a lot of folks say that on the campaign trail. It is not an easy thing to do. I've been organizing for 16 years, and it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I've had a lot of difficult campaigns. And to run for office, again, I had a lot of organizing background. I've run dozens of political campaigns, not as a candidate. I think oftentimes there's a big blind spot on what it takes to win and the path to get there. But I love mentoring people. I love mentoring people on sort of their leadership. So I'm always happy to take 30 minutes and sort of download as much as I can. But the short answer would be find a group that you're connected to and really organize with that group. You'll be surprised how much sort of community you can build through that process. And ultimately, I think building power is more important than running for office. If you build power, winning is just a byproduct of building that power. I think the reason we won in 13 was not because I wanted to run. It was just we were just focused on organizing, whether that was in DSA, the neighborhood councils, or the sheriff fight, or in the union. It was a very seamless transition. It didn't feel like a big stretch. So, but again, whoever this person is, happy to talk to them about it.
Next question from Nuriel. What feedback do you have for Streets for All? How can we improve our representation of all communities in LA? And are there any community groups with aligned goals that you'd like to see us work more closely with?
Well, without knowing the full extent of the organizing, I've been in the spaces quite a bit, so I'll say with that caveat, I would say that pick a campaign and really throw down on it, right, from beginning to end. I think the Healthy Streets for All initiative was a perfect example of that. I think this organization decided, we're gonna do this, right? And that engaged people. I'm sure there was a ton of folks who had never done a signature gathering or talked to strangers. Those things really push you outside your comfort zone. It stretches sort of your capacity and your training ability. So pick a campaign and just go really hard on it, and make sure that you get a win or as close as to win. But again, I always say focus on building the power, right? Bringing new leaders in, training them, checking, mentorship, that kind of thing is always more important. But it always has to happen through a campaign.
Next question from Anonymous. Will you take the fence down around Echo Park?
We've made this was a campaign promise, throughout the whole time. So that is the plan. Right now we're focused on building up our team. We still need to hire about 2/3 of our staff. So that's what we're really focusing on right now. But certainly that is something we'll be doing.
By the way, if there's anyone on here that is interested in working for you, what's the best way that they apply, or where do they go?
Yeah, if you have Instagram, we should have a link on our link tree. We're still looking for a lot of positions, but it's been a little bit of a slog.
Angelo asks, what plans do you have for sidewalk repairs and tree clearance on street issues? I've reported to 311 broken sidewalks and bent trees blocking sidewalks, and they seem very short on resources to deal with this. And I'll just mention another motion we loved yesterday was Eunice's about asking the city to say, show me all the 311 requests for CD1 and then tell me when they're going to be done. So maybe a follow-up question could be, do you have any plans to do something similar?
Well, I like how Eunice's is sort of tackling this issue. And I think Eunice's and I both agree that one of the biggest issues right now is the lack of hiring in the city. The vacancy rate for across all city departments is 20%. And if you look at some departments, including the Vision Zero funding that's there, I think it's at at 40% or 50% staffed. And so the issue on a lot of these things, including some of the sidewalks that are broken, is we just literally don't have the workers to do the work. The funding is there. They just can't spend it because they don't have the people. So I think we can put more money into it, but it's not going to change it if you don't have the people to do the work. And so right now it's just simply about getting people hired into these positions. And then once that happens, then we can talk about how we increase the funding to that. But the issue is just simply they don't have the people to do the work.
Side note, I've been told that the central HR department of the city is incredibly backed up, and most departments rely on that central HR department to fill positions. LADOT has 18 positions that are funded that haven't even been gotten to. So one idea might be giving certain larger departments their own HR teams. That's been done before. Okay, and by the way, Angelo just followed up. When 311 called me back about a tree blocking a sidewalk, they said they had 10 people to cover from Eagle Rock to Santa Monica. That's pretty insane. Next question, did you go to any of the last ciclovias this year? And if so, what was your favorite part?
I went to we were campaigning, but luckily one went through the heart of Hollywood. And so I was able to, I actually skateboarded that one. I didn't take my bike. So I skateboarded with my dog, Detroit. We did like a mile each way, and it was so much fun. But we turned it into sort of a campaign event. But I would say another thing we did on the campaign was just did a bike tour. This wasn't ciclovia. We just did it on our own. We were like bike to the polls. And so we did sort of a tour around the city, around the district. And so, but luckily maybe the time will permit to do more of the ciclovias. I was very sad I couldn't do the South Central one because it's where I grew up. It was literally a couple blocks away from my parents' house, but I'll certainly do the next one.
This question was asked anonymously. When will we be able to bike from Glassell Park and the rest of Northeast LA to the LA River via Fletcher with bike lanes the entire way? And I'll just note, this was a project that Mitch O'Farrell blocked.
So, I mean, I mean, that gives me an idea. We have to look into the projects that were blocked by Mitch and see, how quickly we can start moving on them. Maybe that'll come back in the report back. But yes, I think my dream is to turn CD 13 into the most transit. I mean, it's already very transit rich, but I want to turn it into sort of an example for the city. So any place we can try to get it done would be great, because it does have a lot of the light rail and bus infrastructure that can be built off of it. Unlike many other districts, I think it'd be a great example.
Have you heard about the proposal to close a ramp on Glendale Boulevard? This is part of the 2 freeway stub that never got built, Santa Monica Freeway, and convert it into a park.
No, I have not heard of that. Is it 2 going north or south?
It's going north. There was a horrific video about a year ago of a cyclist that got hit and somehow survived.
Yes.
That's the ramp. And the weird thing is there's an off ramp 500 feet before that. So it's basically a freeway project that never actually went forward, and the stub is what's left.
Yeah, I do know. I know that exit very well. No, I have not heard of that. If people have information about it, I think that's Caltrans though, right? I think Caltrans would govern some of that section.
Hugo, I can actually send you some info on that, because there's some Caltrans funding in place for that project. I'll let you know about it. I'm the one working on it for our people.
Okay, that'd be great.
Next question. West Hollywood has been working on speeding up the northern extension of the K line or Crenshaw line through Mid-City, West Hollywood, and Hollywood, but more than half of the line would be in LA. Do you plan to join that effort and help that project get built sooner?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I have to talk to my my counterparts in West Hollywood. This is going to be like a big collaboration between both cities. But yeah, I fully support it. I would say though about light rail is that I think there is, I mean, obviously we have to extend the K line, but there is been sort of the guiding principle of a lot of Metro is to try to mimic the existing sort of freeway routes that are in the city, right? Many of them sort of are very similar. But we also have to think about how we don't lose the bus infrastructure. I think that we're investing a lot in light rail, and that's great. But as a result, right, we're sort of gutting the core ridership of Metro, which is working class folks, right, essential workers who do bus more than light rail. And so I support light rail. It's great, but I personally cannot lose sight of what I think the buses are just as equally important.
Next question. Are you familiar with West Side Commons, Mike Bonan's project on the west side? And is there any publicly owned land in CD 13 you think could be leveraged to create this kind of community that has thousands of affordable units, permanent supportive housing, and enough density to support major bus stops?
I don't know the West Side Commons project from Mike.
He's rebuilding. I'm not sure it's basically the west side version of City Hall. It's a city-owned property. There's a police station. There's a few other things. I think there's a courthouse, and creating a ton of affordable housing on it.
I don't know. I don't know we have any big major public land. I think that can probably be done with LAUSD. I know there's like a big discussions right now happening of how we use their land to do some of these projects. I know Measure ULA has looked at a few places, sort of parcels that we have. They're not very big. So I think that proposal could be done if we collaborate with other agencies that are in the city, in the district.
Next question from Josh. Most council members normally drive to City Hall. Would you commit to taking transit or biking regularly?
Yes, that is something that I will be doing. I'm getting a feel of it. I've been on the job for 2 days, but I'm trying to see where I can do it. So I'm gonna be experimenting during the recess. I'm gonna take the Metro. I live, not far away from the Metro. I bike. I don't have an e-bike, which Michael said I should get. So I'm going to see sort of what works. Sometimes I'm in the district, that would be good. But yes, I will be experimenting during the recess and see what can work for me.
Awesome. And I see in the chat, someone suggested an abandoned DWP facility on Hoover. Not sure if that's in C13.
I know where that one's at. I don't know if it's the same one. There is one on Hoover right by Santa Monica, but I think it's utilized. I mean, it'd be good to have the exact location.
Got it. Eric, if you have a chance, put the exact location. Next question. The empty bookshelves behind you reflect opportunity and will be the first thing your constituents see when they visit you. What do you plan to fill them with?
Okay, so as you can see, my predecessor loved bookshelves. I'm actually having them removed. It's just, I mean, like it's insane. It's just like, it's like they're everywhere. I need walls. I need bare walls because it's going to be full of organizing plans. I need to see the work that's being done. So I'm actually getting them removed, but I will keep this this plaque that Mike Bonin gave me somewhere in the room.
Next question from Ronnie. Will you continue Mitch O'Farrell's rental assistance program?
Yes, that's not a controversial issue. The issue with the program is that it's been very slow. There's not a lot of equity. I think we met with housing groups on Monday. That was our first meeting we had. We literally convened an amazing roundtable here in this bare room. But I think there's even lawsuits about people not being able to get it. And so the program is great, but it hasn't been accessible, not enough language justice for people to navigate. It's just been sort of a bit of a dumpster fire. So we really have to look at what we can do with those issues. But yes, obviously it's a good thing. I think moreover, I would say that, oftentimes, when we're having these discussions about tenant protections, landlords come and say, I want to evict someone because they haven't paid rent or whatever, but that doesn't get, that doesn't get the landlord the money back, right? And so let's focus on how we can help the working people, and that's through rental assistance. That could be sort of a win-win for everybody. So yeah, I think it's a good program.
And by the way, we got a little more information that Eric says the DWP facility was just decommissioned, and it's at Hoover and Clinton in Dayton Heights.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, what time is it? I think we have time for maybe 2 more. Any interest in being on the Metro board? Somebody wants to know.
As much as I love transportation, I am very hesitant to join it at this moment. Anybody that lives in District 13, our district has a lot of issues. We're trying to do a 180 from what the current council member was doing on a lot of issues, and I feel like there's just a lot of urgency to try to turn that ship before we start focusing on other things. And so, but again, I could be persuaded, but it's not something that I feel the urgency to do. I think tenants and working people and the unhoused require a different kind of leadership, and unfortunately, I don't think they're thinking Metro, right? They're thinking, how do I live in this neighborhood? How can I live, how can I get housing, the street vendors, those issues, they're thinking about the immediate effects of their life right now. So I'm sort of being guided by what the constituent needs right now.
Last question from Olga. People often talk about how metro stations in LA aren't as friendly to community because there are no vendor spaces or really life there other than people just walking through. How do you envision our metro stations in CD13 looking, and how can they be more conducive to community?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of them is allowing people to street vend, right? When you see a street vendor, you see a sense of community, a sense of safety. They bring vibrancy and light and so many things. And so unfortunately, Hollywood is part of a massive anti-street vending zone. Again, it touches on many of those red line stations. But not only that, the way the police interact with street vendors is also pretty terrible. And so my parents were street vendors growing up. I go to as many street vending locations as I can. So certainly there'll be no debate about where I stand on uplifting the working people who make our city beautiful.
There's more questions, but we're almost out of time. Just wanted to give you a space at the end. If there's any message you'd like to tell the community or anything you'd like to end on.
I just want to say, thank you for having me here. I hope to be competing for, we have a few progressives on here, but I will be competing for your love and your attention. But I will be always making sure that we keep collectively, right? We keep our eye on the ball. I've said it many times, but we have to identify leaders. We have to train them. We have to campaign. We have to fight. We have to win. And we have to keep doing that over and over and over and act with a ton of urgency. And so any way that my office and my team can be helpful in having that sort of mentality, you can always count on me. As an organizer, I like getting in the weeds with people and fighting. And so I will be as active as I possibly can in achieving these goals.
Well, thank you so much for being here, for winning your election. We're so happy to have you on City Council. And thank you for doing this on your, third day on the job.
Third day, yes, absolutely.
We appreciate it.
No, thank you so much, Michael. Thanks, Olga. And thanks for all the folks who take leadership in this group. Thank you so much for all the work you do.
Happy holidays, everybody. And we will see you next year with Nithya. Have a good night.
Night, Hugo.
Bye, everybody.